magic players, and collectors of all kinds. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to kick off your week with something I haven't done on this channel for quite a while, and that's going over one of my deck profiles. I haven't done a Forbidden deck profile for quite a while. This deck has been on this channel before, so that's a helpful hint for you guys for, yes, this one, who the commander is. We're going to guess the commander, hopefully before the end of the episode again. I thought that was a lot of fun last time. And I'm just going to start by revealing the lands and work my way across, and we'll see what we got. So, we got ourselves a red, green, and black deck, clearly, because I'm doing a lot of forests and swamps and mountains. I really like some of the artworks on these, so I'm going to go a little bit slower, actually. I like some of these, black and white ones. That one's a really funny forest. I like it. Basically, this is one of the very first decks I ever built. Actually, this is the first deck I built from scratch. And it is got a lot of upgrades over the while. I need to get a forest and mountain or a forest swap into this deck at some point, though. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the land base of this deck. It's actually a lot bigger than a lot of my other land bases. It's 34 lands, which is pretty good for me. Alright, the enchantments. We got Hammerhand, which gives creature +1/+1 to haste. We got Higetsu Consumes All. I love this saga. It destroys each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less, so basically everybody's soul rings get blown up. Then you exile everyone's graveyards to make sure the soul rings don't come back. And then it becomes this crazy creature. 3/3 trample. Whenever it deals damage, you put +1/+1 counter on it, and whenever this thing deals damage to a player, if it dealt 10 or more damage to that player, they automatically lose the game. So this thing becomes insane in this deck, because this deck loves +1/+1 counters. War Squeak, +1/+1, has haste. Azusa's Many Journeys is another one that transforms. It starts out as a 3... for 2 you get to play an additional land, then you gain 3 life, and that becomes a 3/3, where whenever it becomes blocked, you get to untap 3 lands, which is pretty cool. Growing Rites of Itlimoc is an amazing enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 4 cards. You get to put a creature from them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom in any order. And then if you have 4 more creatures, you get to transform this thing into an insane land that gives a forest for each creature you control. Rising of the Day, because haste is very important in this deck. Kabuto faces Kakazan, another one that's going to transform. It deals 1 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker. Then it gives you a +1/+1 counter for the next creature you cast. And then it becomes a 2/2 with haste. And if a creature is dealt damage by it, and it would die, if a creature dealt damage this turn by a source you controlled would die, it gets exiled. So basically just a great way to make sure that there's no reanimation crap going on in other people's decks. Fervor, more haste. Runes of Deuce. The red creature gets +1/+1 in double strike. Green creature gets +1/+1 in trample. So a red-green creature gets beefed up by this thing. Garruk's Uprising, because of course if you're going to play creatures with a lot of power, you want to definitely draw cards and give them trample. Case of the Locked Hothouse, in case, I can't get the Garruk's Uprising into play, then I can at least play this. Oh, that's not the one I thought it was. I was thinking of the other one that gives trample. This one doesn't give trample. Yeah. No. And then this is probably my favorite card in this deck. Basuju Reaches Skyward. This thing lets you get 2 basic 4 cards into your hand. Then you get to put 1 land card from your graveyard onto the field. Or onto the top of your library, sorry. And then it becomes the world's largest tree. I love that card. There's actually 3 or 4 different creatures in this deck that get huge based on the amount of lands you control, so hence why the 34 lands. Treasure map. Scry 1, put a landmark counter on treasure map. Then if there are 3 more landmark counters on this thing, you get to transform it. And it becomes a Treasure Cove, another land. So just more lands for me. Diamond Pickaxe gives you treasures. Capenna Express. Whenever you sacrifice a treasure, this thing becomes an artifact creature instead of a vehicle. So, pretty solid. And Haunted Cloak gives Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Moving on to our sorceries. Wondering if you guys have guessed the commander yet. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you've probably seen these cards and you know exactly what deck I'm doing, but I haven't promoted this deck since back when I used to play with Anthony, so... Explosive Vegetation, you get 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped. Over the Edge, you can destroy target artifact enchantment, or your creature gets to explore and then explore again. Hit the Mother Lode, discover 10. If that color's mana value is less than 10, you get to create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. Dire Strain Rampage, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If a land is destroyed, you get to search your library. Its controller searches their library for up to 2 basic land cards, puts them on the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, its controller could search your library for 1 basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. Chain Reactions, an amazing board wipe. Kodama's Reach. Redstone Zenith is great to do damage to target creature or player. And then you get to shuffle it back into your deck, which is awesome. And Thundering Rebuke to do some more damage. Because why not? Instance, we got Inordinate Rage, gets +3/+2, and you get to scry 1. Terra Asunder, exile an artifact or enchantment, but if you kick it, you can exile anything that's non-land. Witch's Web, +3/+3, gains reach until end of turn. Big Score, discard a card, then draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. Master's Rebuke deals damage to power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Sun Spinnerets, +1/+3 until end of turn. You get to put a reach counter on it. Turn the Earth, choose up to 3 target cards in graveyards. The owner shuffle them into their libraries and you gain 2 life. Titanic Growth, target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. And Defend the Celestius, you get to put +1/+1 counters on creatures. Before we go into the creatures, let's reveal our one and only planeswalker in this deck. It is Nissa, who shakes the world. I really like this artwork from Bloomburrow. It is by far one of my favorite planeswalker cards that I own, just because of the artwork. Alright, going into the creatures, we got Mr. Orfeo, the Boulder, Vashino, Branch Rider. Kibo is in here just because he's funny as hell to be in this deck. Extra artifacts plus people sacrificing treasures is bad. Elfheim Worm, Vigilance and Trample. Nimana, Primeval Warden. Reach, if an opponent would... if a creature an opponent would die, controls would die, it gets exiled, and then I get to create a Sapperling. I can sacrifice Sapperlings to give this thing more power until end of turn. Or to draw a card. This card is a newer one that I've just added recently. I'm considering taking it out, though, and adding in something else. I'm thinking about maybe adding in Bucknerd's Everfull Purse, just so I can pass around thing that makes treasures, and then I have extra effects on the Kibo. But I haven't decided for sure yet about that. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you get to create a 3/1 black and red Graveborn creature token with haste. It's because of the haste that I like to put this one. This one's in this deck. Haste is extremely important in this deck for the way the engine works. Tap to create a treasure token. Each non-human creature, which is the vast majority of my creatures in this deck, will get a +1/+1 counter when they come into play. There are a few humans like Garda, Blood Fist of Keld, which is an amazing card, but not very many. A lot of Vishinos. I like the Vishinos in this deck. Hint, hint on the commander, if you still haven't guessed what it is yet. Alicia, Who Laughs at Fate, is another recent add. I haven't actually had a chance to play with the deck since I've added this card, but I think that this card would be really cool because you get to put +1/+1 counters on her when she attacks, plus I'm already putting +1/+1 counters on a lot of creatures anyways in this deck, and then you can return mana value equal to its power from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, great way to get your creatures back from the graveyard. Molimo, Macro Sorcerer, another one that gets power and toughness based on lands. Gala Greeters is awesome in this deck. Stonehoof Chieftain is, of course, an insane card to put in this deck. Land of War Valves. Stormkilled Artist is another one that kind of... I mean, I don't control a lot of artifacts unless the treasures. There's a ton of treasures, of course, but I do like the fact that whenever I cast an instant or sorcery, I automatically make a treasure token, which is the main reason why he's in here. Rulik Mons is insane in this deck because I get to create goblins or I get to put lands into play whenever it attacks. This Cactus Folk Sure Shot is a recent add. Reach or 2. And at the beginning of combat, all of my other creatures with power 4 greater gain trample and haste until end of turn, so it's just another way of, if I don't have Garruk's Uprising, I can give everything trample. And again, haste is extremely important in this deck. Zia Toro's Envoy. When it deals combat damage to a player, I get to look at the top card of my library. I can play a land from the top of my library or cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the damage without paying its mana cost, which is crazy. I like Zira and the Golden Sting because it's got flying and haste, and then whenever it attacks, you get to put egg counters into play. And when the egg creatures with egg counters on them die, you get to draw cards and create insect tokens, which is awesome. Phoenix Chick is great because it has flying and haste, and it gets to come back from your graveyard repeatedly with a +1/+1 counter on it. Railway Brawler is a new one to this deck. Reach Trample whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control. I put X +1/+1 counters, where X is its power. Blitz Hellion is an old school one from this deck. I love this card because it only comes out once in a while, but when it comes out, it just hits really hard and then it goes away right away. Vazi is another great one to punish people for using their treasure tokens. Thorn Mammoth, whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield, I get to fight, essentially, with Thorn Mammoth, which is a 6/6, so I mean, it's a great way to clear lower crap off the board. Steelbane Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, and then I can remove a counter from it to destroy target artifact or enchantment, which is great for clearing out any trouble things that get in the way. I love Crew Captain. It was one of the first cards I ever got for this deck, and it's just great that it comes in indestructible. Olifant is awesome because it gives trample to other creatures, and it's an elephant, which I love elephants. Loyal Guardian is the way I get most of my +1/+1 counters into play on this deck. And Bannerhigh Krushak is just, it's really fun because I can reinforce and I can scavenge with this thing, or I can just put it into play. So it's very versatile. And with that said, I've basically unveiled everything for this deck except the commander. So it's time to see if you got your guess right. The commander is... worst drum roll ever. Ognis, the Dragon's Lash. It is a 3/3 with haste, and whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, you get to create a tapped treasure token. So essentially, what the whole point of this deck is to basically build a lot of treasure tokens so that I can keep using those treasures and not my lands to get as much of my stuff onto the battlefield as quickly as I can, and then I have all my lands available for if somebody does something on their turn, so that I can use my instants and source instants and other things to counter and do whatever I need to. And yeah, sacrificing treasures is great. Like I say, it really hinders my opponents from sacrificing their treasures as well to a certain extent. And yeah, it's just basically a combat deck. Like I say, I built this deck. It was one of the first ones I built. It was the first one I built. Sorry, when I came over from Yu-Gi-Oh, after I got my original zombie deck, and it is still one of my favorite decks for sure. I don't. I always am upgrading this deck. Although at this point, I don't know if there's anything I could do to upgrade it more. There's probably a few cards I'm willing to take out of here and change if I got something that would make it a little bit better. But right now, I think this is probably one of the best decks that I have built from scratch, and it is a lot of fun to play. Like I say, it reminds me of the original old school Yu-Gi-Oh games that I used to love to play, and it is just a lot of fun. So yeah, that's my deck tech for Ognis the Dragon's Lash. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I think Kaima is signaling to me that it is time for him to go outside, so we will cut it off there. Much love to you all from me to you. Take care, and enjoy your weeks, guys. Bye.